The ongoing technological revolution is rapidly transforming our economies and financial system. Central banks need to keep with the rapid pace of innovation if they are to ensure that money remains sound, payments efficient, and the financial system stable. An important part of this effort is the worldwide engagement with central bank digital currencies. This includes the Eurosystem's work on a digital euro. Collaboration on key underlying technologies can help central banks move faster. The BIS Innovation Hub therefore represents an invaluable opportunity to connect the world's central banks and advance work on the most pressing global financial issues. I don't want to be overly rosy because clearly innovations matter a lot and they create those synergies in order to procure that sustainable future, but they also come with their downside. And if we take the example of solar panels, for instance, what we do with solar panels when they come to the end of their life in 20 years' time after they've been installed is still very much unknown. What we do with batteries which have run for 10 years to support our electric cars is still very much unknown. And what is the environmental footprint of cryptocurrencies, much celebrated at the moment, is also something that is on the downside of those innovations.
But Mark, would you go as far as suggesting that digital money can help channel money where it's most needed for the climate, like using smart contracts to channel money?
I would go as far as saying that is a very promising avenue, yes, because it's not necessarily that digital money and smart contracts and use of DLT can bring these interconnections to the fore, and then combined with emissions data can help us optimize and reduce those emissions in the most efficient manner and the most aggressive manner. So it can potentially unlock a huge potential.
Yeah, completely agree with that. We can change gear and move into what Mark was alluding to. The digital currencies, digital cross-border payments, smart contracts, raising equities over debt, in particular in relation to innovation and climate, which is now clearly demonstrated as conducive to it. I think those would be other objectives that I would cherish.
Thank you. I mean, Mark, you will be at the heart of this corporation, delivering on the COP26. So what's your priority?
Well, I think first is to state, just to reinforce, it's incredibly welcome the U.S. Back into the fold. They'll bring ideas, initiatives, and inclusiveness, if I can put it that way. And I think there is a number of issues, and Christine rightly referenced disclosure, where this the consequence of this can be to finalize the approach and have the system moving forward with a core approach on disclosure. I do think that as well, and again, you're both closer to it than I, but the central bank digital currency advancement of that for many reasons with the U.S., if possible, would be is welcome. And then I think the architecture of voluntary carbon market solutions as well is important, and we probably don't have time to go through all of that, but this is important because this is the consequence, just to be absolutely clear, and I'll finish with this, is that this is about, first and foremost, absolute emission reduction by companies and all of us. But in the bridging of that, there is a complementary role for credible, high integrity offsets for those companies that are reducing emissions themselves. And this unlocks a big flow, potentially of 75 to 90 billion euros a year of cross-border flows, largely, we would say 90% of that into the emerging and developing world, which needs that investment. So it's an important component. The U.S., given their financial market strength, can play an important role in that development as well. So on all fronts, and the combination of Glasgow, U.S. returning, all the momentum that exists, we want to crystallize a number of these advances this year.
That's very encouraging to hear. I mean, we're coming towards the end of this conversation. So, is there any message, any hope, any note of caution that you would like to share with us?
You know, there's one thing that I'd like to mention, which we touched on very briefly, which I believe is important. We will see an accelerated transformation of those patterns because there is a demand, because there is that momentum out there, and because the young generation is angry and hungry at the same time. They're a bit angry with us, but they're very hungry for changes and changes in real life and in almost on time. I think it will require a good cooperation between the public sector and the private sector. The transition, will require a lot of training, a lot of retraining, a lot of support, incentives, sanctions, and all of that. And I think the public sector will play that key role vis-a-vis the private sector. If you think about how the automotive industry, for instance, will be transformed in the next 10 years, and how much retraining, recycling, and support will need to be given to those who have been dedicated to the combustion engine cars when they move into building electric cars. There are multiple sectors where clearly transition will need some support and will need some incentives as well. Public and private sector will have to work together, as much as all countries that understand the urgency of this matter will have to work together as well.
And it's fantastic. Just to comment, to finish, look, we're rewiring our economy through the digital transformation. We need to rewire our economy for the sustainable transformation. We need to do those both at the same time. This comes together in finance, and many of the innovations in finance will accomplish both a better and more sustainable digital economy, but ultimately what we want and the young deserve is a truly sustainable economy. So there's no better area to work on if you're interested in finance and public policy and central banking, because the impact is enormous. And I'll put a plug, if only we had a hub for this type of innovation. Oh, yes, we do. We have the BIS Innovation Hub chaired by you, Benoit, and so we should channel ideas and energy into you. So thank you very much for what you're doing and for having me on today. It's a distinct honor.